coupure d'alimentation, CE. Dat was deze. CE, ref, enter en start. Ref position X 0 enter, Y 100 enter, Z 50 enter. Programming mode, lines 0 to 999. You start with label, for example label 1. After you define your tool def 1 length 0, you also have to define tool def 1 enter.
Deurenloop met de pijltjes, hè?
Nee, net nog gedefinieerd zijn. CE 2 enter, en dat is ook al gedefinieerd. CE 3 enter, radius. Radius 5 enter. You define the length and the radius, and then you can do the tool call. 3 enter. Okay, to modify a line, you open with this arrow. You confirm the new value here, for instance 1, enter, and you finish the line with the same arrow. Okay. Every program starts with label. For instance, this one is label 1. You go writing all the lines. At the end, you write call label 1 and how many times you want to repeat it. Call label 1 is here. Label call. And you stop your program with label 0. So one program is between your label 1 and between label 0. If you want another program, you skip some lines and you start a new one, for instance like label 2. And again, you tell him to how many times to repeat this label, and you stop it with label 0. And in that way you have 999 lines. For instance, we want to make a new program on line 40. We start with toolDef 4, enter. The length is 100, enter. The radius is 5, enter. This is finished. This is the tool def. Then we do the tool call 4, enter. We tell him in what axis he is working. When he is working vertical, we choose the axis Y, enter, and we tell him how fast he's running. 500 revolutions per minute, enter. Then we can define a movement in X. X, we go to 0, enter. We do not need a radius, so we press enter. We go with feet, let's say 900, enter, and we start the spindle with M3, enter, enter. Then we go to axis Y, 0, enter, 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 enter. Then we can go, let's say, X100 and Y40. And then we will switch off the spindle. We can switch it off in this last line with M5. Then we will tell him how many times to repeat this label. Label call. Which label did we use? 4? No? We give it 4. Label call 4. Enter 10 times. And then label set 0. Enter. Enter. Label set 0. Enter. In the beginning of our program, we must define label 4. Label set 4, enter. So we start with label 4. We define the tool. We call the tool. We make movements. We start the spindle, we stop the spindle. On line 17, we tell him how many times to repeat, and we end the label with label 0. We want to execute this line. We go to full automatic or to block per block. We start with full automatic. We tell him to go to line 39, go to, and we start the program. Every time the label is executed, we reduce with 1.